Hey, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Okay. Let's see. All right. I think we're kosher. There we go. Uh-oh. That is weird. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. We'll find out. All right. Let me get back onto Zoom. We'll mute everyone, even though everyone's so quiet tonight, so well behaved. Very un-Jewish of you. Okay, here we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to share something that I am in the middle of working on. Okay, working on meaning something that I am personally in my own life working to increase, and hopefully that will inspire you to do the same. And there is when you study the daily Chumash, which I encourage everyone to do, because listening to me is a very lousy replacement for the source. So the Chumash is the source. So every day we study a Torah reading from the 7 Torah readings of the weekly Torah portion. So today we studied the 4th. Tomorrow, now this parsha is a very sneaky parsha because the first 4 readings in this week's parsha are very short. So when you study, if you're like me, which hopefully you're not, but if you're like me, then you scout the daily study and you pray that it's short. So the last 4 days were really easy, but tomorrow, boom, it's makeup time. Suddenly you get hit with a long aliyah, and it's called the rebuke, the techacha, the rebuke. One of the 2 places in the Torah where God rebukes the Jewish people, essentially telling us the bad things, God forbid, that will happen to the Jewish people if we don't follow in the ways of God. Which were really, both of these rebukes were really prophetic of what would happen to the Jewish people during the first and the second destruction, for the first temple's destruction and the second temple's destruction. That's really what it was prophetic for. Now, people get very traumatized from these rebukes, understandably. And I've shared, I'm sure, I once went into a doctor's office in the area here, which I do not do very frequently, thank God. I was there, and a guy I think I shared this one of the other nights, and some guy was there in the waiting room, and he turns to me and says, "I know you." I said, "You know me? What's your name? Where are you from?" He's from Rhode Island. He drove in from Rhode Island to the doctor, whatever. He's from Rhode Island. Rhode Island. I said, I was there. I was actually in Rhode Island many years ago for Simchas Torah. When I was maybe 22 or 23 years old to help out the shliach there. That was the last time I was in Rhode Island, to the best of my recollection. So he's thinking, it's from the videos. So you saw some of my videos on Chabad.org. That was really nice. Wow, that was cool. Okay, don't worry, that was the first and last time that happened, but it happened once. It actually happened a few times. But anyway, so he says, I have a question for you. And his question was, he's very angry at God, and it's interesting because a lot of people, I hope it's no one here, but if it is, then this hopefully will help you. A lot of people who don't believe in God are very angry at God, which is a really interesting thing. It's very hard to be angry at something you don't believe in, but somehow they're very angry at this thing that they don't believe in, which of course is the beautiful indication of the fact that a Jew, despite everything, really just can't help themselves but believe in God. So I don't remember whether he was angry at God or he doesn't believe in God, but he used the example of this week's Torah portion, where God says he's going to bring all of these horrific punishments upon the Jewish people. I mean, is this is God? What type of communication is that? What type of interaction is that? We don't do what he wants. He beats us up, and he puts us through enormous. If you read the rebuke, it's like really, really horrific, suffering. So it was a great question. I answered him, but I would say I wasn't fully equipped to respond. And I'm not sure I will ever be fully equipped to respond to that, because sometimes the questioner, there needs to be a shift of desire in the questioner. The person needs to want to see this differently. Because if you just look at things from a surface level observance, that's a strong question. But the second you get a little bit deeper, that question begins to fall away. So by way of example, if we look at how many times God has protected and looked out for the Jewish people in the Torah, how many times God expresses his love for the Jewish people in the Torah, that is far, far greater than this isolated, compacted, one-time punch rebuke. Far, far greater. And you can look at, maybe you can look at this, and this is what I am working very hard to get much, much better at. Look at your own life. Look at your own life. And look at all of the blessings that you have. In other words, if you were able to write up a list right now of all of the things that you could thank God for, make that list. And then you make a list of the things that you're upset about. Make that list. I'd be shocked if your list of blessings is not triple your list of complaints. I'm breathing. I'm talking. All of the limbs in my body, thank God, are working. I can see. I can hear. I have people I can communicate with on Zoom. That's a big, big blessing. I can go on and on. I have the lights in my office don't work, but I have a lamp I was able to pull from another room to work, right? So really, really isn't that big of a deal, right? I have air conditioning in my house. I have a wife and children. We can go. I have a huge home. Do you know that? I live in a huge, huge home. I think like 50 years ago, my home would be a mansion, I suspect, or close to one, right? Especially if you came from Russia, where you were raised in one room for the entire family, was all raised in one room, right? Which is about the size of half of my living room. That was the whole house, the whole apartment. Unbelievable, right? So the blessings go on and on and on. As we begin to appreciate more and more how much Hashem gives us constantly, we begin to realize that, and let's just balance this also. So now we balance this with, okay, why is God giving me all of these things? And what am I doing for God? How much of my life is surrounded around the purpose God put me here versus what I enjoy and what I want and what's convenient, et cetera, et cetera. If you analyze that, which is also a very good, we call a cheshbon hanefesh, a very good accounting of the soul, especially this time of year before Rosh Hashanah, and you can do that honestly, which sometimes you need someone else to help you do, because sometimes we are completely delusional when we start making these. Sometimes we can be completely delusional. But as you've heard me say an endless number of times, the more we are aware of our self-orientation, the more we are aware that even the things that we do for God is very largely even about us. What we get out of it, what we benefit from it, why it serves us, etc. It's not really fully about God. So you look at that, and then you say, did I really, in my relationship with God, did I really earn all of the blessings that I have? And I have no doubt, you may see this differently. I hope you don't, but you may see this differently. But to me, it's clear as day that almost anyone I know, practically anyone I know, what God does for them is 100-fold, probably 10,000-fold of what the person does for God in commitment. Like God is so committed to me, it's unbelievable. And that commitment is going on every second. It repeats itself, and in so many ways. So that creates a perspective, if we want to look at things honestly, what I would describe as honestly. And when we do that, we begin to realize that, yes, God tells us about this rebuke. But one second, before I get into all the fancy theological stuff, let me just look practically. Okay, bottom line, what's going on in my life? Is that what's happening to me? Is that what God is doing to me? Is that what God's doing to the people I know? No. There's no question. Every one of us has hardships in our life. Some of us have extreme hardships. Some of us have less extreme. No one's life is easy, though. I have yet to meet a person who, after getting to know what's really going on in their life, to find out that their life is easy. Now, you can have a hard life and be happy, but that doesn't mean it's easy just because you're happy. But right, it's hard. That's what life is. That is the nature of life. For better or for worse, that is the nature of life. However, the blessings are really enormous. But what happens very easily is that we simply lose sight of those blessings. We're simply unaware of them because we're not paying attention to them. You know, we all know, right, that we don't appreciate our thumb until, God forbid, our thumb gets bruised and suddenly you can't pick up a million things that you'd like to pick up. So very often we don't appreciate things until they're hurting or until they're lacking or until they're lacking temporarily, which is very unfortunate. So one of the fascinating verses, so what do we need to do? We need to initiate awareness of the blessings that we have in our life, even though we're not missing them. That is a beautiful thing. And that's something that God really appreciates. And it's actually a part of our mission in this world. And the reason why it's a part of our mission in this world is because when we recognize that what we have comes from God, we are actually making this world a more God-oriented place because we're bringing more awareness of God in the world. That's what happens. When I tell people, thank God, today, I mean it much differently than I meant it 10 years ago. 10 years ago, thank God, was like, you ask someone, how you doing? They say, good. How you doing? Thank God. Same thing. It's like, good? You're really doing good? Don't ask me how I'm really doing, right? So the good is just a hello, hello. But instead of saying hello, hello, you say hello, good, right? How you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. It's like two people saying hello to each other. That's all it is. It's almost meaningless. It almost means that good almost means nothing. That thank God almost meant nothing. It's like, thank God. It was just like saying it because, you know, it's a habit. You just say it. And then when we pay more attention and someone says, you know, I share with someone that, you know, whatever, something that happened. And I say, thank God. And I mean that. And sometimes they think I'm crazy, depending on who I'm talking to. They're trying to figure out how God got into the conversation. Who invited God into the conversation? But God's in the conversation. Whether we are aware of it or not, it's all happening with the help of God. So we have a verse in this week's, in the Torah portion tomorrow, where we say, it speaks about the blessings, because there's first it mentions blessings, then it mentions the curses. It says, Uvau alecha kol habrachos ha'ela, and it will come upon you, all of these blessings, v'hisigucha, and it will overtake you. V'hisigucha, and it will overtake you. Now, these blessings will come upon you. I would love that. I'll take all the blessings to come upon me, and then they will overtake me. What does that mean, overtake me? I don't know. It just sounds like I'm going to drown in blessings or something. It almost sounds like the blessings are turning into something overwhelming. What is the verse? Why doesn't the verse just say that these blessings will come upon you? Why does it then say, and it will overtake you? The reason why is because the word v'hisigucha, the root of that word, for those who speak Hebrew, is hasaga in Ashkenazic pronunciation, or hasaga. Hasaga means to comprehend something. To comprehend something. So what this verse is actually telling us is that this blessing will come upon us, and we will comprehend that this blessing came upon us. That is a double blessing. Because when we have a blessing and we don't appreciate where it came from, we don't really value the blessing. Someone is always complaining with all of the good that when we have abundance of good, which every one of us has, and I would say with all of everything I'm saying, we have far more than we realize still. And we don't realize that. Like, we know people who are never happy. No, whatever you give them, there's a problem. It's never enough. It's never enough, never enough, never enough. It's a mind. That's a mindset. That's a perspective. And the blessing here is that you're going to have the blessing and you are going to comprehend that you have the blessing. That's a very, very powerful blessing. So I want to say that I want to share a blessing for all of us, myself and all of us, that God bless us this year, not only with an abundance of blessings, and even more than he gave us last year. Because God always, there's a concept in Hebrew called Ma'alin Bakodesh. We always increase in holiness. So God hopes that we are going to increase in holiness. And God willing, every one of us will. That should be the plan for the new year. And we should start even before the new year. And as we increase in holiness, we say, God, you got to follow the plan. So God's going to increase in bestowing upon us holiness. And holiness is always good. Holiness is never bad. It's only blessing. So God's going to bestow upon us more blessing this year than last year. And we tell God that, God, I am going to spend more time this year paying attention to what you give me so that I can actually comprehend the abundance of blessing that you give me. And that is actually what the beginning of the Torah portion is about. It's about the Bikurim. You imagine you plant a tree and you plant an olive tree. And the very first ripe olive, the first olive that ripens on your tree, you mark it so that when you're ready to pick it off the tree, you pick it off with the other fruits that Israel has been blessed with, which are 5 fruits and 2 grains. We call them the 7 species. And that's, let's see, we got dates, figs, pomegranates, olives, and grapes. And then you have wheat and barley. Those are the 7 species. And we bring the very first one. Now, I've said this in the past as well. When you plant or grow your own fruit, there's nothing juicier than your own tomato. Even if it doesn't taste as good, it tastes much better. That's the reality of it. That's the beauty of hard work. So Hashem says, the first one, no, it's not for you. Why not? Because, whoa, you think you worked to get this tomato? You want to have this tomato really got here? You want to know everything I was involved with? Because if you take me out of the picture, all you have is a rotten seed in the ground. You don't have nothing. As we say in Yiddish, garnished. Or in some other language, nada. What's that, Spanish or something? Whatever. All right. So the whole mitzvah of Bikurim, the first fruit being brought to the temple, is gratitude, that we realize what Hashem gives us. So may we all have an abundance of gratitude this year, but may we seek out to be able to thank Hashem for more and more things, because there's so much that we often don't even recognize that we can truly thank Hashem for. We should thank Hashem for, and we must thank Hashem for. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And they took away my rights to unmute you. I'm sorry. But if you have something.
Yeah, we can do it
Oh, we're
ourselves.
going to do the show for now. Where's our Nason? You forgot.
Nason,
let's do the
he's
show for one
cooking. He's
Thank
running
you.
to remind you.
We're going to have to lower his pay now. That's it.
Tequila.
Oh, there we go. Just a second. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Beautiful.
Very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Very welcome. Thank you for the reminder.
Wonderful.
Almost
Rabbi?
forgot. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, I actually mentioned it on Rosie's class this morning. I heard this on a webinar yesterday and I just loved it. For anybody who likes to go